All right, welcome to Buzz is Building with Joel Smith. Every Wednesday, Joel joins us for the last block of the show here to provide 5 players with some buzz that you need to keep an eye on heading into each and every week. Joel, it's week 8, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Yeah, doing great.
I'm trying to, survive. Week 8, it's the middle of the season. I'm ready, to no more 10 p.m. Eastern games. How about that? Then I'll be feeling a lot better. I'm still trying to catch up on the sleep, but nobody cares about that, Joel. Literally nobody cares about my sleep schedule. What they do care about is these 5 players we have to highlight, including 2 in the first ones that we're going to look at that are actually playing on Thursday night. So very topical of you to throw these ones in here. Let's start with your first player where we've got some buzz building.
I try my best, and this is actually a good Thursday night football game, so I love that. Between Chargers and Vikings, first one, in terms of buzz, we all know who it is. Oronde Gadsden, and that usage is up consistently throughout this season. Every single week, those routes have gone up, and it's more important for him when we're talking about route share because of 2 different things. One, when we're talking about the percentage of routes, well, the Chargers are passing a ton, so that means more routes. These last 3 weeks, he has the 4th most routes among tight end. And then that second thing is his yards per route this year. Just his efficiency overall is tight end 3 right now. So we're looking at the yards per route for tight end on the year. It's Dalton Kincaid, number 1, who's been amazing, but the Bills still don't play him a ton. And then number 2 is Tyler Warren. Gadsden is right behind those 2 guys. So he's looking great recently.
Man, he looks incredible on the field, too. He looks like he really belongs. He is, for people who are not familiar with him, he's a former wide receiver convert over into playing tight end as a collegiate prospect, and he put up a ton of production, so he was somebody that was kind of on the radar because of that. And there was, talk about buzz building, Joel. There's been buzz building on this guy basically since, Chargers training camp. I know Jim Harbaugh is the confidence king. He gasses everybody up, but they were definitely hyping him up in the offseason, talking about how excited they were. And I mean, it's not even just like, well, who else are they going to play? He's completely just blown past. You mentioned the routes. He's completely blown past the veterans on this team. And I mean, that's saying something considering they need some reliability. They need more protection. They're saying, forget that. We're not worried about tight ends blocking. We're trying to get this guy out in the route.
Yeah, which is even better. I live in Los Angeles now, was at the Chargers facility during their training camp or next to it. So I heard it firsthand. I was like, all right, I got to pick up this guy in Dynasty, and he's making me happy now. When we're looking, even though at his college, you were talking about a receiver, he had the 2nd most receiving yards as technically a tight end then, even though he's a receiver. But even again, we're looking at the names in terms of those power 4 tight ends. The only guys that are above them the past few years or past 10 years is Bowers, Mark Andrews, Tyler Warren last year. So this isn't some nobody, even though he was drafted later, and he's not some 7 or 8 year vet where we're just oh, he had one good week, now we had to pick him up. This is a rookie that has some real ceiling potential.
And I think there's some staying power here, especially we'll talk in just a second, what are we doing with him in terms of rankings this week? But just because you mentioned Dynasty, this Chargers team is quietly really loaded for the future if you're optimistic about their young players, because obviously Ladd is a 2nd-year player. QJ is still on his rookie contract. Keenan Allen probably a 1-year guy, but they drafted Keandre Lambert-Smith, who flashed in the preseason. Trey Harris, I thought when he started for QJ against the Dolphins, didn't put up a lot of production, but I thought on film looked really, really impressive. He was the guy they were gassing up for kind of blocking his ass off. I can confirm he was really blocking dudes in that game. So quietly, this is an ecosystem, Gadsden included, that I think is interesting for the long haul. But for this week, Joel, rankings wise, where are you slotting Gadsden among tight ends?
I would say he's a lower end tight end 1 just because it is a really hard matchup. He's still, I would say, that 4th option. So the Chargers are great in terms of passing offense, but tough matchup overall. He is tight end 9 on the year after that big game in terms of points per game. So he's still, already a tight end 1. I would keep him there. There's not too many great options at the tight end position. So if you have one of those clear top guys, obviously you're not benching a Tucker Kraft even or somebody like that. But if you're deciding between him and Kelsey or other guys that were off the waivers Fan and those the other waiver players, I wouldn't play them over a guy like Gadsden.
Yeah, I'm looking at my rankings. That's exactly kind of where I have him, is that tight end 7 to 9 range where, yeah, Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, Tucker Kraft, people know the names, but yeah, Zach Ertz, Travis Kelsey, the kind of old reliable guys. I mean, there's a floor there. I do think Kelsey's in a pretty good spot against Washington this week, and obviously Zach Ertz in that same game. But I do think that he makes sense if you want to go with that young, exciting thing. I definitely think there's some potential here for Gadsden to pop off on Thursday night. But let's stick on Thursday Night Football for your second buzz as building player.
Yeah, basically sticking with Jordan and Addison, like you guys are talking about. I was doing my rankings on yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday. Monday night, Tuesday morning rankings, and the automatic consensus that popped up for Addison was wide receiver 27. And I was like, why is Addison the wide receiver 27? Because right now, he's wide receiver 9 in points per game on the year. And I think people don't realize how good of a situation he's in just because we think of, like, the Vikings offense, Carson Wentz is in there. It's not the greatest. But in terms of his targets, his routes, his red zone usage, all that is up there. Right now, in terms of targets per game, since he's returned, he's number 9 among receivers. He is second to Justin Jefferson in terms of routes. So he's out there constantly running routes. They're constantly throwing the ball. And that red zone passing rate is always so good in this O'Connell offense. It's why Addison, even though he's not that 6'5" X receiver, he's going out there and scoring a ton of touchdowns his first year, his second year. I don't think the 1 touchdown every 3 games is going to be the best case scenario. That's the worst case scenario, I would say, for Addison is 1 every 3 games, just looking at the past 2 years and how he's used down there. Like Minnesota, their passing rate, 70% inside that red zone area. The next best is 65%.
Yeah, wow. I did not realize they were throwing the ball there. Yeah, he has 4 red zone targets against zone coverage this year, does Jordan Addison. And in terms of yards per route against zone coverage, we were talking about the zone versus man splits with Nate earlier. And I mentioned Carson Wentz was not one of the ones we broke down because we get it. But a lot of that is because of the pass catchers, why he's so good against zone coverage. Jordan Addison is 5th in yards per route against zone coverage. Justin Jefferson is 3rd. This is just one of those answers, man, where there's always – it's one of those offenses where there's always an answer. And because teams do so much to take Justin Jefferson away, they said this years ago when they drafted Jordan Addison. He's always going to have these easy coverage looks. He's going to get the easiest looks in the league. Kevin O'Connell said that, and we're still seeing it. And I think Addison's gotten better as an individual player. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm looking at consensus rankings now. Wide receiver 27. I'm going to have him closer to wide receiver 15, 16, 17. Who do you think is a more confident start this week between Ladd McConkey or Jordan Addison in the same game?
Oh, I would say Addison. Yeah. I would take the wide receiver 2 on this team versus dealing with all 3 receivers there with Ladd, even though he's been better recently, obviously. But I still would be more confident when you take in the defenses, especially in Addison. He's missed the first 3 games this year. He only has 1 touchdown. He is still the 6th best receiver in terms of touchdowns since he's entered the league. So his first 2 years, and he's already had 20 touchdowns. There's not many other guys that are catching more than him because of that red zone usage. And I think a lot of people like Wentz. I'm not advocating for Wentz. I don't think he's a great quarterback. But in fantasy, when we're talking just fantasy football, a lot of times what's most important is just who they're throwing to. Because a lot of these backup quarterbacks come in, they throw a lot to the tight end or the running back, those check downs, or maybe a little bit more to those backup receivers that they've been playing with. Joe Flacco, what we saw last week, incredible. Carson Wentz, so far this year, over 70% of his passes have gone to JJ, Addison, and Hawkinson this year. So he's at least throwing to the right guys.
We love the backups who come in and they just know the assignment. It's the same thing with Flacco that we talked about last week. I saw you put the tweet out too after that Thursday night game. 70% of the passes went to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It's come in here, find the guys, pummel them with footballs. And when your time is done, Flacco's time is not going to be done until Burrow gets back. But Wentz, this might be it. Just get those guys to football and get out. That's it. That's all we're asking for here. Last one here real quick. Jordan Addison or George Pickens this week? Who do you think is in a better spot?
Okay. I would go Pickens there. I love Pickens so much. Just this year mainly, but I've loved Pickens all season. I can't go away from him.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's an interesting matchup. We'll break down more tomorrow with Justin Boone with the potential which corner is going to be covering him versus CeeDee Lamb, the whole deal there. But all right, let's get to the third buzz is building player.
Going to go to New York and Cincinnati here with Justin Fields potentially missing this game. We could get more Tyrod Taylor. And in terms of yards per route for Garrett Wilson specifically, we'll use him because he's just that biggest fantasy guy. His yards per route is actually the same with Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. The biggest difference is just that pass rate. Because when New York
Hmm.
has Tyrod Taylor on the field, they are number one in the NFL in pass plays. Where when Fields is on the field, they're 29th. So they're running, no matter the game script, really, the Jets, when they have Fields, running the ball a ton. But when Tyrod is out there, they just kind of go with the game script and let him throw it around. In terms of that adjusted completion percentage, he's second behind only Drake May. He's been incredible. So he's been accurate, gets the ball out quick to those playmakers. So with Garrett Wilson, I think that does help him a lot, especially in this matchup. So I like Tyrod just in this matchup against the Bengals. But if Garrett Wilson plays, it helps Breece Hall, just those other receivers in general.
Yeah, even a guy like Mason Taylor, you have to have like some stones to start him after the way things have gone the last 2 weeks, but maybe like a prop perspective, something like that, or if if you're like me and you took Mason Taylor, I think in the third round of my dynasty rookie draft, I'd like to just see him, do something again, even if I'm not starting him right now. I'd like to see him just do something because this should be the matchup where that can happen. I was just watching this Bengals defense back earlier because I was watching the Packers offense in week 6. There's just so many wide open holes against zone coverage specifically. So that should be favorable for the tight end. It should definitely be favorable for a guy like Garrett Wilson because I maintain, Joel, that the Jets are not a well-coached team. They might be the worst coached team in the NFL right now on like the margins. Not great stuff going on there. But I still think the passing game is really well designed. So if we can get a guy in here in Tyrod who's 36 years old, he's not the most athletic guy anymore. He's not the same player he was back when he was like cutting it up with the Bills a decade ago. But he certainly can still get the ball into the right spots. And I think if Garrett Wilson starts, it's good news for him. And even for like quarterback streamers, I think Tyrod's in a decent spot here.
Yeah, that's good to hear about Taron Angstrom too in terms of this passing offense. Tyrod, athletically, yeah, not really there anymore, but he is trying. He is trying. And what I mean by that is his scramble rate is actually number one in the NFL when he's been on the field. So he's still running around a lot. This Bengals defense against fantasy quarterbacks, I think he's a great super flex start and a solid Hail Mary if you need it in terms of quarterbacks off of waivers this week. The Bengals, they've allowed 20 plus points to 5 of the last 6 quarterbacks, and usually they are losing, which doesn't help fantasy quarterbacks a lot of times. The Jets here are a touchdown underdog.
In my like 14 team, this is disgusting type leagues that I'm in, I have Jaden Daniels, and I might need to get a Hail Mary at quarterback this week. So I'm waiting to put Jaden Daniels on IR and stick Tyrod Taylor potentially in my starting quarterback spot. So maybe some of what I'm saying here, Joel, is I'm trying to get us to manifest this for me personally, because ultimately, yes, this is a show for the people, Joel. You're a man of the people. You're out there cutting it up on social media. This is about me, okay? I need my problems here are what really matters.
Yeah, I need it too. I have a super flex league with Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy. So if they're out again, we got some prayers.
That's been super fun. Luckily, it seems like Lamar is going to be back, and I also have a Lamar Jackson Superflex league, and thank God I've been starting a running back in that spot, which I don't want to be doing. But hey, we're still 10-2 because we've got a points league part of that as well. But all right, enough about my problems. No one cares. Let's get to the fourth Buzz's building player here.
Chase Brown is next. So stick in that same game. I fall somewhere in the middle on Chase Brown, just going forward because everything is at an extreme, whether extremely good or extremely bad. So we'll start with the bad so that we can end with the good, In terms of the targets, that was the big hope with Joe Flacco coming in. The running back targets as a whole, not Chase Brown, just as a whole, has been 5 targets and then 4 targets. So it hasn't been as good compared to what he was doing with the Browns. And half of that basically is going to Samaje Perine. And the other big thing that sticks out is just the red zone usage is so bad for Chase Brown, on top of obviously the offense. They're 31st in red zone drives. So the only team worse is Tennessee. So shout out to the Zach Taylor coaching tree right there. But Chase Brown, in terms of when they actually do get down there, he's got 42 snaps without Joe Burrow in the game in the red zone this year. He's got 8 opportunities for 15 yards and no touchdowns. So still doesn't have a single red zone touchdown. And that'll get better. I'm sure he'll end the season with above 0. But I don't think it's going to be amazing going forward. So the red zone opportunities still aren't great. Even with Flacco, when they are scoring a little bit more, that's where the more negatives come in. The positive is finally had a good day on the ground against Pittsburgh, which, not the greatest, but they at least entered the numbers were more middle of the road. So a good sign there at least. And then the schedule going forward, he's had one of the worst among fantasy running backs. The rest of the way, he is number one.
That's good to know. I have one team that's already kind of banged that had Chase Brown, so it's kind of over there for me. It doesn't really matter that much, but it was encouraging to at least see him kind of justify the reasons that he was ranked so high, because I think there started with, well, how can you rank this guy just because he was playing with the Bengals offense? It's like, no, I think he's actually a pretty talented player who works well in the run and pass game. So that was at least good to see that. How sustainable do you think what we saw? And I've been asking everybody this week. How sustainable do you think what we saw with Joe Flacco on Thursday night last week is, both from how it affects the receivers, but especially how it might affect Chase Brown?
I would love to hear what everyone else is saying too. I don't know if I caught all of that, but I would be very nervous actually. I think Chase is fine because of how good he is in terms of yards after catch and making plays, all that sort of stuff. But more so when we're talking Chase Brown, even T. Higgins, I wouldn't be shocked if the other shoe drops very soon. I feel like we see this a lot, especially with these backup quarterbacks, these journeymans at the end of their careers, veteran guys, where they come in and they have a little spark and they're great for a couple games. And then they eventually kind of go back to what we've seen the past couple of years. And Flacco, like he was incredible in 2023 and then 2024, 2025, it was pretty bad. So it's been awesome the last couple of days. I hope it continues, but I don't think it'll be consistently like what we saw on Thursday night last week.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. And my takeaway was it's going to be very matchup dependent. I think people just still don't realize how bad this Steelers defense is, and just how particularly easy they are to take advantage of if you have the right personnel, which the Bengals obviously do, because this is an older defense. They're slower. They can get beat because they play a lot of man coverage. And I think like Joey Porter Jr. is a really good man corner, but he is very undisciplined in zone. And then meanwhile, I think Ramsey is not equipped at this point to man up on receivers, and really neither is Darius Slay. So when we're looking at you're going against a good receiver corps like Cincinnati, you can really get got there. And there is going to be spots like everything we just said, I think, throw out in terms of the skepticism, because they're playing the Jets this week and Sauce Gardner might not play. Like, this is another spot where I think we might see the best of Joe Flacco. Just get in the gun, get in quick game, and distribute the football. Check it down to Chase Brown. Threaten teams vertically so you open up the box and get guys out of there. But when they go up against some stiffer competition, that's where I think it could be a little bit troubling. Like maybe not the Bears in week 9, although they have definitely created some more havoc, but we go against some teams. We'll see what the Ravens defense looks like in week 15, but like Buffalo later on in the season, there's some spots where I think it might be a little bit dicier for Flacco. But for the immediate future, this Jets matchup, I'm willing to get excited about obviously the receivers and even Chase Brown as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Pittsburgh, yeah, it does worry me, especially just the post-game comments, like Jamar Chase talking about how they knew exactly what they're going to do. They did it, and they exploited it. Like, it's pretty simple there.
Well, dude, I know what they're going to do, and I'm sitting in my stupid office here. So, like, if I know Jamar Chase, who knows infinitely more ball than me, definitely knows what they're doing. I did also think it was very funny. Flacco had a good interview that I just saw the clip of it on the Andrew Whitworth, Ryan Fitzpatrick podcast, where he's like, yeah, even though I'm like 40 years old, I came in really nervous because I wanted to show these guys like I could throw it to him. Jamar is so good. He's like, I threw one pass to him and it was kind of behind him or whatever in the Packers game. And he had to adjust to it. And I was so embarrassed. I was so nervous. He's like, oh my God, he's going to think I suck. And I just thought that was really funny. Like he truly is just like, I don't know the plays. I don't know anything. I'm just going to throw it to this guy, which that'll work in the right spots. Luckily this week,
it did.
The Jets, I think it's the right spot. Speaking of the Jets, your final buzz is building player also plays for the New York Jets.
Got one more. He's probably not going to do too much this week. Not saying this is a week 8 start, but Isaiah Davis, that trade deadline in the NFL is November 4th. A depressing stat for you, Matt, is the Jets running backs this year have more fantasy points than Philadelphia's. That is how bad it's been for Saquon. He's been getting everything there. So, yes, I know it's not the greatest team, but sometimes you got to take better than nothing. And I think Isaiah Davis is a lot better than nothing. And if Breece Hall does get traded here, there's been lots and lots of buzz, lots and lots of rumors of Breece Hall potentially being traded. They like Isaiah Davis. And with no Braylon Allen in there, he has got some real potential. Last year, with Braylon Allen, I think, Breece Hall missed one game. Isaiah Davis had 16 fantasy opportunities and 15 points, almost 16 points actually. So it was pretty good for like his one day. He's been good when he's been on the field. These last 3 games, he's actually out targeted Brees Hall. So that's been a surprise. So they like him in the receiving game, like him overall. So it's not a bad team to be a part of with how much they run. Tyrod Taylor can maybe help this offense, even if he does come in and they're passing a lot more. So I like the potential of Isaiah Davis. I definitely think he's worth a stash if Brees Hall is moved here.
I totally agree. I think he's a good guy just to stick on the end of your bench. And if it comes to be November 5th and Brees Hall is still on this Jets team, you probably just cut him and move on for something else. But I think right now you can definitely stash him. And obviously if injuries happen, of course, then you're picking him back up. But for the time being, just stick him on the end of your bench, see what happens. He's widely available right now. And I do think he can play a little bit. I was impressed in that one game that he played. And, even the Jets coaching staff, Aaron Glenn, this offseason, like, we have 3 good backs. We have 3 backs we believe in here, which was part of the kind of ADP concern of Brees Hall. Braylon Allen probably not coming back this season after he just elected to have surgery on that MCL injury. So I don't think we see him again this year. Isaiah Davis can play a little bit. And like I said, I know the Jets have not won a game this year, and the offense has been what the offense has been. But I still think when I watch this team from a design perspective, not a sequencing, maybe play calling, but the actual just approach of the offense, the bones of it, I do think this is, I can believe in this here if it's got the right quarterback. So for these guys, like typically if you're stashing these backup running backs, you don't want it to be in Garbo ecosystems. Again, I know they haven't won a game, but I don't think this is one of those Garbo ecosystems, Joel.
Yeah, still 94% available. And a lot of times when I am looking at like these backup running backs in fantasy, it is like, what is the confidence that he's actually going to get the volume? And I think it's pretty high here. Like, I don't think we have a Hassan Haskins situation where he's the main pickup in that Chargers backfield and then he's useless. Where Isaiah Davis, if he isn't good in fantasy, I don't think it's going to be because he isn't getting the volume. If Brees Hall were traded, I think he would be that number one guy getting 80% of the touches.
All right, buddy. Joel, you said it all. You done it all. You gave us the 5 players who's got some buzz building. What else are you working on this week?
Oh, got our starts video tomorrow. We're going to do some scheduled videos next week, next Tuesday. We're halfway through the season, so that'll be a big one coming up.
Awesome. Make sure you are checking all of those out on Joel's social media, YouTube, everything that we've got going on with Joel has been absolutely fantastic this year. Love having him on this segment every single week.